Happy Wednesday, everybody, and welcome into the Gramlich and McLean podcast presented by Ingles, the official supermarket of Gramlich and McLean. And today we are talking brawl, backyard brawl, Pitt and West Virginia, one of the best rivalries in college football. And we have a great guest to help us with it, Mac. He knows a lot about beating West Virginia. It's former Pitt quarterback Pat Bostick.
Come on, KG. Yeah, we had to go to the source here. The guy that just absolutely ruined West Virginia's chances to go to national championship. You love to see it. 13-9, I believe that was. As I'm skewing
and West
that
Virginia
out
was ranked number 2 in the country.
Yeah, great. So they were walking,
they
to
were
the
going to be there.
And Pitt said, "Not so fast, my friend." And Pat had a big deal.
When Pat was reminding us that Pitt was a 28.5-point dog. I mean, that is crazy. And I said this to Pat in the interview, but that is literally what can happen in rivalry college football games. It's the perfect example of that.
Right. 100%. You never know what's going to happen. What you do know what's going to happen is every time you go to Ingles, you're going to have a good time. So
yes, sir.
You got to go there. Listen, it's a big tailgate weekend. Again, we have 13 games in the ACC going on this weekend. You got to get some stuff to get you piled through the day. You need that energy. KG, I know that you're all about the boards. You're all about the dips. Anything else on the schedule for this weekend?
I love a good charcuterie board, of course. And yes, this weekend is going to be another tailgate couch weekend for your girl. So I love a charcuterie board, especially for a home tailgate, because you can just snack on it all day, which is beautiful. It just, kind of brings you through from the noon to the 3:30 and onwards. So, and they have such good selection. This sounds really bougie, but they have a great selection of cheeses and other assorted, meats that you might need. Yep. There at Ingles. So check them out.
Are you a big aged cheese girl?
Oh,
is that your vibe?
Oh yes. You know what I do like? Goat cheese.
I saw that the last time you
goat cheese is where it's at. Goat cheese is delish.
Sure. Yeah, you can have all of that. Listen, I'm headed to Clemson this weekend, so you guys will see a recap of my Ingles visit there. We got to be primed and ready all day long. So look out for social media. That'll be coming. But real quick, a message from our friends over at Ingles, and then we're going to sit down with Pat Bostick.
Did you know that Ingles sells more organics than any other store? Or that they run their own dairy? Or that they only serve USDA choice and prime meat? Did you know that they have more local craft beer than any place else? Or that they have Energy Smart stores? Or that they professionally slice and package imported cheese from Europe? Did you know about their giant international aisle, local farm partnerships, curbside pickup, wine department? Or that they donate 3,956 meals a day to local food banks? Well, now you do. It's all in the bag. Ingles, low prices, love the savings.
Pat Bostick, my man, welcome back to the podcast. Brother, you didn't have to get all dressed up for us, man. We appreciate it.
Hey, man, I am to please. Thanks for having me.
Well, you do that, man. You look fantastic. And again, appreciate you so much. Listen, it's a massive week, man. And I know for you guys, probably a lot going on. So we appreciate you making time for us. But the Backyard Brawl, man, one of my absolute favorite weeks of college football, just the intensity of it all. So before we jump into what that means, I want to jump back to, I believe it was your freshman year, where you guys just ruined everything for West Virginia. Number 2 in the country, and you ripped their hearts out. Set up the stage, walk me through the game. I need all of it.
Yeah, so we limped down there, coming off a big loss to South Florida. The week before, we were 28.5-point underdogs, and obviously they had Pat White and Steve Slayton and Owen Schmidt and a great defense and the whole crowd, and they were booking their ticket to the BCS championship game, and we had nothing to lose, and I can remember all week, the stories from Coach Wanstedt and Paul Dunn, our offensive line coach, who played in it. Keep your helmet on the sideline. An old Mountaineer field, they'll throw stuff at you. Be prepared for, the eat, what Pitt. It started pregame, and we got in a tussle pregame at midfield. And I think right then and there, they knew that we weren't just going to roll over and die. It was going to be a fight. And just, the sequence of events, our guy, Pat McAfee, missed a couple kicks in that game. And I saw him a couple years ago, and he won't remember this, but I said, "Hey, Pat, I hear about this game a lot, but you're the Pat that had more to do with us winning than I did."
What did he say? What did he say when you said that?
Something that probably isn't appropriate for the podcast. Right. So, no, I mean that game, certainly has it changed my life. It changed our whole team's life, and it's seldom that a game can be remembered by score. And, we played a number of other games against them the next year it used to be the Friday after Thanksgiving. So a little earlier this year, but the blood's the same. It boils. Haven't been to Morgantown since 2011. It's a special place, and it's a special rivalry.
Oh, it definitely is. And that's such a great story. That's why we love college football, because a rival can go into another rival's place and be a nearly 30-point underdog and win the game. That is literally why we love this sport. So before we talk about this year's game, Pat, you've been to Morgantown many times. I know you haven't been in a while. You've played in this rivalry. That game is obviously a crazy story, but give me some other just crazy stories that you've experienced or you've heard about this rivalry.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't add that, our drive in. So we, Pitt will always stay, right on the border of Pennsylvania, which is, another 20 or 30 minutes to Morgantown. Probably a smart move as I think about it. And I just remember going in and, we're getting down there, it's night game, and our bus just started getting pelted with stuff, whole beer cans, just everything, man. And I'm like, wow, like this is crazy. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. There were the stories about obviously, having to wear your helmet on the side. This is that old Mountaineer Field, which used to be in campus. Now they're, they're off campus slightly. They're in Pittsburgh. I mean, we played them in Pittsburgh, and that crowd's a little bit different because, it's such a close road game for them. They travel well to that game, and I can recall the fan bases getting into it, man. Not a lot of Pitt fans travel down to Morgantown, but the West Virginia fans have come up north and, going through the parking lots and seeing literally like what looked to be rugby games. And it's just, that's what you get. And, I think it spills throughout the other 364 days of the year. I mean, there are families that are divided. I'm in a guy's office right now, Chris LaSala, who's, does all of our football ops and is the best in the business. He's a West Virginia grad. I hate to put him on blast, but he's been at Pitt now since 1996 or 7.
Wow.
And bleeds the other blue and gold now. But, so you have that type of stuff too. So it's just, it's 106 meetings, man. You can't make up that kind of history.
I love that, man. How about, again, just from the fan perspective, I know you dove into it a little bit there, but why is the hatred what it is? Like, is there any bit on that I know the longevity of it, as you said, but I mean, you guys legitimately do not like each other.
No, it's I probably has something to do with, city school, country school.
Yeah.
Some saying that, Pitt's the obviously premier research school, ACC school. West Virginia's obviously got to go to it goes into the Big 12 and doesn't get into the ACC even though they wanted to. So it's this haves and have-nots, type of mentality. And I love it, man. There are a lot of people down there that I really like and respect. I think though, it's just that dynamic has been in place for 106 meetings. It's, on the basketball court too. It's on the wrestling mat. It's on, it's in the pool. It's on soccer fields. It's everywhere. And, I play golf with guys that are West Virginia fans and I don't want to lose to them. So it's just, it's that the regionality of it. And I think the country versus city and, that type of deal. And for so long, we were in the same league. So it came down to Big East championships in football and basketball and bragging rights, man. And I think we see that all across the country. This one, has a special flavor. And I think people in this area, man, they love their football. So they get real happy when their squad wins and not too pleased when you lose, especially when it's to the rival.
No doubt about it. And I don't know if there's a better rivalry game name than the Backyard Brawl. I think it sums it up perfectly. And I never truly realized how close Pitt and Morgantown were. I went and called a game at Morgantown a couple years ago and I flew into Pittsburgh and I'm like, oh, I get it now. This makes a ton of sense to me. Pat, before we dive into the actual game, I just thought of this and I'm curious because you're someone who works in Pitt athletics. You raise a lot of money for Pitt. That's your role. How have donors and Pitt fans reacted to this news of the ACC adding these West Coast schools and SMU? Have you seen any difference, any kind of feelings on that?
I was just having a text exchange with a donor that was thrilled when we joined the ACC in 2011, officially in 13, and is equally thrilled about this addition and going out to the West Coast, particularly Stanford, Cal, and then obviously the Dallas Metro. There's a lot of football in that area. Obviously, Stanford and Cal are premier athletic departments and programs, not to mention world-class universities, and they've had success in football. It may not be right now. It wasn't too long ago that Jim Harbaugh had Stanford competing in the top 10, and Marshawn Lynch and Aaron Rodgers were running around at Cal Berkeley. So our fans are excited about it. Our fans are thrilled with the strength of the ACC. They want to travel to these places. That was the appeal of getting into the ACC in the first place. This just adds more to the plate for them. And I think for our players and athletes, man, it's the experiences they're going to get is you can't put a price tag on that. I played one game out west when I was here. We went to Utah. We lost the game, but I'd never been to Salt Lake, and I haven't been back since. So, but I'll remember that. It was a unique setting, and I know Cal, Berkeley, and SMU and Stanford are going to bring that to the table for our fans, and obviously the men and women wearing the colors.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll see. I think that's kind of what Pat Narduzzi said to us as well when we talked to him about it. He was excited about that potential of a West Coast trip. So let's get into this game, Pat, because Pitt, interesting start to the year, right? You have Wofford, you beat Wofford, and then the Cincinnati game was a real disappointment. You have every chance in the world to win it with how tough Pitt played, how rough the offense looked. You had every chance in the world to win the game on that final drive. So you've been around the team, you know what's going on. How is this team feeling heading into, as we've talked about, this massive rivalry game?
Yeah, I think they're angry, frustrated, disappointed certainly in the performance, but and you guys know this, when you walk into a film room the day after a game and you watch how poorly you played and you still had a chance to win the game,
right,
you can take a lot of positive on that. I remember saying it on the broadcast, late in the game, I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, how are we in this game? And defense shored things up, started, playing the run better. Phil made a couple plays. The reality of it is, it just got to be a lot cleaner if you're going to win, ball games in the ACC, and particularly in the passing game. And that starts in the protection phase. And then obviously Phil's got to put accurate throws on open receivers because, you look at the schedule for Pitt and it's been, lauded 11 straight Power 5 games. This is number 2 of 11. And it doesn't get any easier. And these aren't going to be games that are going to be 21-17. As much as Pat Narduzzi would love that.
Yeah.
They're going to play a tough defense, but they're also going to play Drake May and Jordan Travis and Sam Hartman. And you're not going to complete 10 of 32 passes and win a whole lot of ball games, even if 3 of those are for touchdowns and 1 went for 60 yards, which is in and of itself a crazy stat.
Right.
But just got to be cleaner, got to be more efficient, and it starts in protection. It starts with Phil, and then obviously route detail and catching the football. And if they do that, they have all the ability to go win a bunch of games. And I think playing that poorly and against a good Cincinnati football team and having every chance in the world to win, as frustrating as that is, it's also, a cause for optimism.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. And sadly enough, it's just, Pitt will have one of these stumbling block games and then go on and be fine, right? And I think we all wish that wouldn't happen and let's stumble in a win. But it kind of is what it is. Right. How about the defense though, Pat? Because I thought that going into the game, why I was so confident about Pitt was because I thought they'd be able to shut down the run, no problem. It's what they do. And I don't know if from your vantage point, was it run fits? Was it attention to detail? Or was it just better offense? They called, great plays versus, your great Pitt defense.
I think it was a little bit of everything, probably, Eric. I think, they got hit. They're known to, how aggressive they play. Again, Pat won't love this, but they're gonna give up a run or two because they're gonna pop one. You pop a zone play and block it up, and they're gonna find a crease but it was a consistency of 6-7 yards a pop that you never see. And I think that was a combination of fits. It was a combination of safety play and D-line play. Guys probably trying to do someone else's job. I think in the second half, we saw them get back to what we expect, which is truly dominating the line of scrimmage. I think they took it personal. I know Pat Narduzzi did and Randy Bates. And this is going to be really important to this week's game. We're going to find out a lot about this team bouncing back against the West Virginia team that if West Virginia is going to beat Pitt, they're going to do it running the ball. They're going to do it with C.J. Donaldson. They're going to do it with that veteran offensive line with, 3 guys that are pros up front. And if they're able to run the football, it's gonna make it a difficult task to go win down there in Morgantown. And hopefully that second half version of this Pitt defense shows up here on Saturday night.
Right. And KG, that's why I thought that this Cincinnati game would be such a great kind of in-between game leading into it. And again, it still is, but sadly in a loss, Kelly, I think that they kind of rally and build on all that.
Well, and I think Cincinnati's probably going to be better than we all thought. Emory Jones coming in at his, seventh school or whatever it is, and Scott Satterfield and kind of all these new transfers. I think Cincinnati is going to be better than they were picked. But what's interesting about this game to me, Pat, is if Pitt had beat Cincinnati, first of all, this line and kind of Pitt being favored on this would have been even more so. And so this adds a bit of desperation for Pitt, because West Virginia, to me, is very desperate in this situation, because honestly, I think Coach Brown is in many ways maybe coaching for his job in his fifth year, just some stuff I'm reading too. And they're at home and all this. So could this be a loss? Is never positive. Don't hear me saying that. But could this add a level of desperation to Pitt that they might be able to somewhat match how West Virginia is perhaps feeling?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's accurate. You shouldn't need that, but obviously, I think the sentiment, just being out of practice earlier, the sentiment with the frustration with how they played, it also brings the focus inside, which I think will be important in a game like this. Whether you're Clemson playing South Carolina or Michigan and Ohio State, you start focusing on the other side and all the emotions, you lose sight of the job and the task at hand. I think when you make a lot of mistakes, you start to turn introspectively, say, what do I got to do? Yeah. Never mind what West Virginia does. And there's a lot of carryover. I mean, they're similar offensively with how they want to run the ball to Cincinnati. Defensively, they're a three down front that's going to play a lot of one high safety, and they're going to bring probably a lot of the same pressures that gave that Pitt offensive line trouble. So it's not like you're preparing for a Tampa 2 four down defense. It's carryover schematically, and it's got to come down to fundamentals, technique, execution, and focusing on that as opposed to we're going to go down there and be in this environment and rivalry. I mean, you start, wasting too much time on that. That's for Thursday and Friday, not Saturday. And I think that bodes well. Is probably a good thing for this team.
Yeah. Pat, how about just the offensive attack, for Pitt? I've said this, and again, this is just my kind of observations. This is no inside info like you have, but perfect world. I mean, it seems to me that, obviously you get down to Cincinnati, you got to throw it a lot, right? You have to,
right.
That's just the place that you're in. But to me, I think this Pitt team is most comfortable if they're running at 60% of the time, throwing at 40. Is that kind of the vibes and what you see and get from practice?
Yeah, I mean, at least 55, 45. I don't think that, and we talked, preseason about, I remember talking to Wes and the guys on the air about, hey, this isn't a team that wants to be and make its money throwing the ball 45, 50 times a game, dropping back. This is RPO, a little bit of quarterback run, set up, run action, hard ball, play fakes, and get one-on-ones. It's hard to do that when you're down 17-7 and 24-7, and then you're dealing with the clock. That is even more of an issue now with the stoppages stuff. So I think in a perfect world, they don't start the game throwing the ball 3 times in a row and going 3 and out in a minute and 10 seconds. They want to grind you down. They want that defense on the sideline, fresh and ready to come out and pounce, and then set up the explosives through the air, which is where Phil's at his best. I don't think Phil's a guy that is at his best dropping back 44 times. I don't think this offensive line's at its best. And the game, got played the way Cincinnati wanted to play it, not the way Pitt wanted to play it, which unfortunately, led to a bad result.
That's a great way to put it, I think, Pat. And so a lot of that's in your hands if you're Pitt going into this game. So Last one for you. We know you got to go. You got to go raise some more money because that's what you do. But give us some keys. If Pitt's going to go win this backyard brawl, what are they going to have to do?
Yeah, I think if you looked at the stat sheet after the game and put your hand over the score and you looked at rushing yardage, they win the rushing yardage battle. That will be indicator number 1. Number 2 is going to be, in my opinion, Phil Dracova's completion percentage. It can't be below 50. Now, if it's just hovering at 50 and he's completed some big passes, that could skew it. But he's in the 60-65 range, they're going to win this ball game. And it's going to come down to turnovers. These are rivalry games. There's going to be a freak play here and there. Who falls on it? And who makes that big play, especially when you're on the road. But I really look at those first 2 things. Run the ball, stop the run. and then Phil being efficient in the passing game. If those three things happen, the Panthers will be up at the end of it.
No doubt, man. Well, we can't wait. Can't wait to watch it. It's one of my favorite games. Good luck, safe travels, keep your helmet on, and get after it, brother. We appreciate your time.
You got it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again to Pat Bostick for joining us. If you're watching on YouTube, you can tell that Pat is a very important man, and he is. He was suited and booted, suit and tie. Mac, I don't know if we've ever had, besides ACC kickoff, if we've ever had a guest join us in a suit and tie.
Well, listen, that's just where this program is going, okay? People feel like they have to be suited up to talk with us. But no, he's very busy, very grateful for his time and making this happen for us.
Definitely. So let's get into this game a little bit. I think Pat Bostick honestly summed it up really, really well, giving us the keys. And we talked about Pitt Cincinnati on our Monday episode, but it was such a puzzling game. Pitt had every chance to win the game on the final drive. And as Pat was saying, Pitt played about as badly as they could. They didn't run the ball. The O-line didn't look as good as we thought they would, Mac. And Jurkovec really struggled. And Pat made the point, Jurkovec's not a guy that you want to pass the ball 40 times a game. You want him to be able to hit some big plays. You still want to ground and pound, use his legs a little bit. It feels like they got away from that. And to what Pat Bostick was saying, they're going to have to run the ball in Morgantown to win that game.
And I think that's how they're built, right? And when you get behind, it's hard to kind of stick to your roots. You have to throw the ball. You have to score quickly, try to score quickly, get the ball out. And what does that mean? A lot of passes. But the way they started, as Pat said, as you and I have been talking about, with 3 straight passes, would love to see that reversed. Would love to see the physicality and really just from Jump Street, hit these guys in the mouth and say, let's go. Like this is the type of game it's going to be. This is a rivalry. We don't like you. This is going to be not fun for 60 minutes. And they have enough backs to do that, with from a health perspective, from a variety of what they do perspective. And so I can't wait to see that, KG. And I hope this game plan is really attacking, again, smash mouth football, but then that complimentary piece of throwing it through the air will come. I mean, it's one of those things where, hey, if you get that run going, and I'm not saying Phil can't run either. That dude's a big athlete. Mix it up with him, some RPO game, whatever it is, and then let's hit some play action over the top. Let's confuse that defense. Let's get them coming downhill and trying to play the run, and then let's take our shots.
Phil can hit the deep ball. I mean, that's one of his better attributes. So if you're able to do that, set it up and get some big plays, that's going to be huge against this West Virginia team. Mac, the defense, as Pat said, the Pitt defense was a little disappointing. And now they did play better towards the end of the game, and again gave the Panthers a chance to win it on that final drive, but they couldn't stop the run, and West Virginia is going to want to run it as well. So do you think this was just a lot of new pieces and just kind of a rough game for the defense, or is this Pitt defense maybe not going to be as good as it's been in years past?
Well, surely they lost a lot of star power, right? And
they did.
Veteran guys and guys that really were exceptional leaders, but also exceptional players. So there's going to be a learning curve with that. I mean, there's no question that guys have to figure it out. The stars will emerge. The players, I think, are there. It's just a comfort level and understanding, hey, I'm not a backup anymore. I'm the dude. I'm the guy. I can't look to the sideline and there's somebody there waiting to come in. It's me, and they got to really trust me. So I think just starting aggressively, that big defensive line eating, you're going to probably be going against a better offensive line than you did last week against Cincinnati. So you have to be disciplined. You have to stay in your rush lanes. You have to stay, in your areas if you're a linebacker and take the right gaps. You can't miss. Otherwise, West Virginia is going to grind this thing out and really try to run the football. So, KG, on both lines of scrimmage, I would love to see a physicality that it took a half of football to get to in that Cincinnati game. If we can have that from Jump Street, which we should. It's a rivalry game. Juice should be flowing quickly in this one. But that's what I've got to see. I love Pat's keys there. Both lines of scrimmage are vital. Can we run the ball? Can we stop them from running the ball? And honestly, I'm with him. I think that's the ticket to who wins this football game.
Mac, I've become an old school football coach, and that's mainly my key for every game. So I am with Pat 100%. And by the way, we didn't really mention this game's 7:30 p.m. on ABC Saturday night. This is a huge, big time, prime time slot for both of these teams. Pitt is a 1-point favorite as of Tuesday when we're recording this. So, I think Pitt would even be more so of a favorite if they had beaten Cincinnati, obviously. Pitt's the better team. Let's just be real. But they haven't shown it as much yet. And I did mention this to Pat. there is a level of desperation. I was reading, I've never said this sentence before, but I was reading some West Virginia blogs, and I've never done that. Neil Brown
Probably
is
a
on
dark place. Be careful.
It's a little bit of a dark place. Neil Brown is on the hot seat, Mac. This is his 5th season. He has struggled. They got blown out by Penn State. If they lose close, he's probably okay. But if they get blown out in this rivalry game at home, that could be the end for Coach Brown at West Virginia. So I do think there's a desperation level for West Virginia. But I think because Pitt lost, they've got a lot to prove. And so I think both teams are desperate in this game.
I agree with you, KG. I really do. And again, rivalry game, you never know what's going to happen. I just hope we have a great game, explosive game. Can't wait to see it. And again, this rivalry is nuts. Those fans, let's not burn any couches. Let's not be crazy here.
But be yourself. Because honestly, what's so fun about this rivalry is that y'all are crazy. And by y'all, I mean West Virginia fans. You're crazy. So, just go where the spirit leads.
Just
whatever you feel you need to do.
Go where the spirit leads. It might not be the spirit leading down that road. I don't know. We'll see. But again, huge shout out to Pat Bostick. Very grateful for his time joining the podcast. Fun to talk about this rivalry. It's one of my favorite every time we get to see it. And of course, big shout out to our friends over at Ingles for making this happen. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Another great episode. Go over to YouTube. We need you to watch this. You need to see Pat Bostick suited and booted and looking like he's going dressed to the nines there.
And see us in
That's
T-shirts.
Right. We're cool. We're pretty to look at as well. And of course, the OGs over on Apple Podcasts, rate, review, subscribe over there. We would greatly appreciate that. But until next time, we'll see y'all.